Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Vishnu Academy. My name is Gautam, and I am here to give you a briefing on political science and international relations and its viability as an optional for civil services minds. Now, you know that political science has of late become a very popular optional among the students. There are a lot of students who are now planning to take political science, and there are very serious reasons for that. Irrespective of background, we find students in political science from the engineering or the medical background, students who are literature students. A lot of students have picked up political science as their option in recent times. Now, first, before looking at political science as an optional, we'll try and understand what are the important criteria that a candidate should keep in mind before selecting an optional. Now, I know that a lot of students tend to select optionals for their civil services mains exam based on a hunch or an intelligent guess or some gut feeling or because of some advice of a senior. Now, these sometimes factor in a candidate's selection of an optional for civil services mains. Now, that's not the way a candidate should select his optional for the mains exam. Okay. Now, you know that for an examination of this magnitude, civil services examination, which is considered one of the toughest examination, making the right choices or taking the right decisions is very important. And one such decision is selection of an optional. Okay. Now, I've known a lot of students who have picked up a wrong optional, an optional which does not suit their aptitude, and they have struggled with the optional, and ultimately they had to change the option to give themselves a decent chance of cracking the civil service examination. Therefore, selecting the right optional obviously is very important. This is the very first step and probably one of the most important steps that you take in your journey at civil services. Now, before trying to find out about political science, I believe that there are 4 important things that every candidate should keep in mind before he picks up an optional. The first is personal affinity of the student. Whether the student is comfortable with the optional or not. Whether the student finds the optional interesting or not. A lot of students tend to downplay this factor. Okay? A lot of students tend to overlook this factor. The students tend to look at the way an option is performing in the examination. And if they feel that the optional is doing well, and if some of their friends or their colleagues or some seniors have picked it up and have experienced success with the optional, they tend to go for it. But that's not the way. We are supposed to first find out if we have a personal interest in the optional or not. Obviously, we'll have to persist with the optional for a very long time. We'll have to spend hours and hours with this optional, It's sometimes told by one of my teachers when I was preparing for civil services that, your optional is almost like your sweetheart. You'll have to spend so much of time with your optional. So you'll have to like it, obviously. You'll have to like the optional primarily because of the fact that if you like the option, it will tend to motivate you to look further, to probe a little deeper. It will make you feel that you should become an expert in that optional. For this, you're required to like the optional. That's very important. So a factor which is often downplayed is the personal interest of the student, but this, I believe, is a very important factor. If you like the option, then you will want to do a little more, probe a little more. You will want to explore a little more. You will want to explore new vistas in the discipline, that subject, So, how much you like the option is a very important factor. And secondly, the performance of the option in the civil services examination. There are some optionals which show a very high success rate. Now, please don't be under the misconception that the success rate is the sole factor. For example, if there is an optional, like let's say a very rarely taken optional, okay, one particular language paper. If there are 2 students who have picked up that option, and if those students, 2 of them have secured selection, it means the success rate of the option is 100%. Okay. So success rate of the option should also be tempered with the volume of students who are picking up the option. Okay. The volume of the students also should be high, and the success rate also should be reasonably good. Now, these 2 factors should be kept in mind while assessing the performance of an optional. The volume of the students who have taken that option, and secondly, the success rate that option is showing, whether the option is showing around, let's say, 8 to 10% of success rate. Okay. Standard which the UPSC had declared was the honors level. Okay, but we should understand that the quality and the standard of the questions is much higher than what was normally claimed by UPSC. Okay, we see that the standard of questions is of very high level. The questions are very probing. The questions are never usually direct, particularly in the optionals, and the questions actually test the depth of the student, the level of his understanding, his conceptual clarity, his command over information, content. All these are tested in your answers. Okay, therefore, for an examination of this magnitude, it is always an advantage for a student to be under mentorship or guidance of an expert in the subject. Somebody who knows the subject, somebody who had a stint with the optional, with that subject, somebody who had a long experience with the optional, they can guide you better in helping you get expertise in that optional. Okay, in guiding the students in sourcing the right kind of literature. Okay, in clearing the doubts, in imparting conceptual clarity, in making the student write answers, evaluating scripts, in helping the students to understand the drift of the question asked. In so many ways, proper guidance and proper mentorship plays a very important role. Okay, now I know that in recent times, almost every institution is offering mentorship for popular optionals at least. But the right kind of mentor is very important. Suppose you are under the mentorship of a person who knows the subject, who knows the exam, who has had experience with the exam, both as an aspirant as well as faculty. And if you are under the mentorship of somebody who has the patience to go through your scripts and to guide you so that you can better your scripts. This is very important. So availability of a proper guide or a mentor also is a very important factor, because nowadays we live in an age of information. Therefore, accessing information or accessing material or literature is not a big issue. The big issue is filtering out the literature that you have at your disposal. Today we are living in an era of information explosion, in the sense that we are bombarded with a lot of information about all kinds of topics. Therefore, what we read is important, and equally important is what we avoid reading. Therefore, there should be somebody who can guide you well, right? I keep telling to my students, with optionals like political science, one very important thing is that you're supposed to keep it simple. You're not supposed to complicate it, particularly with respect to political theory. Okay, you got to get your concept straight, you got to get your concepts crystal clear, and you got to keep your knowledge and your material and your approach simple. Okay, you're not supposed to complicate it. Don't try to read too much of information. It's only going to complicate your preparation, your understanding. Okay, therefore, availability of a proper guide or a proper mentor also is a very important factor. And fourthly, contribution to your preparation for general studies. Now, why this has become very important in recent times is because general studies now occupies 1000 marks and optional accounts only for 500 marks. I'm not saying that optional is not important, but the message is very clear, very straight. The weightage given to the 4 common papers, which we know popularly called as general studies, is double compared to the weightage given to the optional. The 4 general studies papers account for 1000 marks. Therefore, the message is very clear, very straight. Right? Please remember that in the previous scheme of the civil services examination, there used to be 2 optionals, and both the optionals used to account for 1200 marks, and GS accounted for 600 marks. Therefore, the weightage for the optional was double compared to GS. Therefore, the candidates were required to be strong in the optional to clear the civil service examination and to hope for a good service. But now, it's the other way around. The weightage for the 4 common papers is double compared to your optional. Okay? So, you've got to be strong in general studies to clear this examination. So, how much does your preparation for the optional help in you gaining substantial amount of expertise in your general studies? Also becomes a very important factor now. Okay? So, why is it that in recent times, political science had emerged as the most popular optional? In 2020, the highest number of candidates who had taken civil services mains examination had taken it with political science and international relations as their optional. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason for the fact that the highest number of candidates who have cleared their preliminary and who have taken their mains examination went with political science and international relations as their optional. There's a reason for that. Okay. And one reason for that was the contribution that political science makes towards your preparation for general studies. Okay, we look at all these things a little ahead. And these are the 4 important factors that you keep in mind whenever you select your optional. So please don't select your optional on a gut feeling or on a hunch or because somebody had advised you. Okay, you make that choice a very conscious and a personal choice. Okay, you make that choice an intelligent choice. Okay, so be very clear about this, my dear friends. As I told you, picking up the right optional is probably the most important step in your preparation or in pursuit of civil services selection. Okay, so this is the first thing, right? See if you have an interest in that optional, that particular subject which you have, boiled down, the 3 or 4 options that you have boiled down. You take a look at them, try to read some literature. Okay, at random pick up some topics in that optional, and you can go to internet or you can consult some textbooks or from whatever source, right? Try to do some readings and see if that option is able to absorb your attention. See if that option is able to capture your imagination. See if that option is able to instill a little amount of interest genuinely in you. Okay, see that. Just feel that optional once. Make a test for the 3 or 4 options that you keep as your choice. And secondly, also do some work on how the option is performing in the civil services examination. Now, this cannot be a dead sure criteria, as you know. Okay, this can be one of the factors. That's all. Okay, if you ask me to order, I'd give this a more important ordering compared to this. Okay, and thirdly, availability of guidance and mentorship. Of course, you should be able to judge whether you're able to get access to the services of an expert who can deliver on that optional. And fourthly, also see how much each option is contributing to your preparation for general studies. Keep these 4 criteria in your mind. Okay, and then you can make a choice. Now, looking at political science, what is the nature of this optional? Before looking at anything else, we'll try and understand the nature of political science and international relations. So you got to know a little about the subject first, isn't it? Whether political science is amenable for students with technical background or not. Whether the jargon that we use in political science can be comprehensible for people who do not have any kind of an exposure to the subject or not. These are a few doubts that a lot of students have. So before dwelling into that, we'll try to understand the nature of the subject, political science. Okay, so that it can give you a little more insights into what this subject is all about and whether this subject can be a potential choice for you or not. Okay, first thing is political science is an optional which is considered to be background neutral. Okay, like almost many of the optionals in civil services, even political science also is background neutral. There was a time when students with political science background only used to pick up this optional. But now, if you look at the choices, you see that a good number of people with no exposure whatsoever of political science are actually opting for this subject in their civil services mains. Now, that's the present trend primarily because it's now realized that political science does not require any background in the subject. Anybody can start feeling comfortable with subject. The concepts are general and non-technical. Okay, they're very easily understandable. Okay, just like Indian polity. In Indian polity also, the subject is so very user friendly. You come across terms like democracy, republics. Of course, I'm not saying that they are easy to actually understand. What I'm saying is that students tend to feel a little comfortable with these subjects. You don't have very technical terms like you have in economy, like purchase power parity, capital account convertibility. In the technical terms, we don't come across in Indian polity, isn't it? Even in political science also, most of the concepts are very general in nature and they're non-technical. You don't require, elaborate formulae to understand these concepts. Okay. So once you are starting to feel comfortable with the subject, okay, the concepts are very easy to ingrain. Okay. They are very easily understandable. But provided, of course, you should have the right kind of person who can deliver you the information about these concepts. That's very important. Okay. And that's the reason why political science is considered to be an optional with which even students with diverse backgrounds can feel comfortable. Students with literary background, literature backgrounds, or technical backgrounds, or medical students, okay, they all can feel comfortable with political science. Okay. And secondly, political science has got a very rich content. Okay. So in political science, we study about kings, kingdoms, constitutions, governments, revolutions, ideologies. We study international politics. We study diplomacy, concepts like power, national interest, It's got a very rich content. And content not only is rich, content is very varied also. Okay. As a part of your political science syllabus, you study, Indian polity. Okay. You study Indian foreign affairs. You study a little bit of social issues in India. You study, as a part of political science syllabus, a little bit of Indian economy as well. Okay. See, so much of diversity you have in the subject matter of political science. Right? I'm speaking only about section B in paper 1 and section B in paper 2. Okay. So you learn a little about Indian polity, Indian economy, that you study things like planning, okay, liberalization. You study things like land reforms, green revolution. All these are specifically mentioned as a part of your syllabus in political science. Okay. As a part of social issues, you study issues like regionalism, okay, language as a major challenge to democracy in India, ethnicity, okay, so many factors of society which tend to influence the nature of political process in India is what you'll study. So you study about caste, about communalism, regionalism, their influences in Indian polity. All these things you study as a part of your understanding of political science. All these form a part and parcel of the subject matter in political science. Okay. You study what India's foreign relations, the nature of India's interaction with the world, how India had structured its bilateral relations, how India had leveraged its position in South Asia, how India had conducted its relations with, the regional organizations like, ASEAN or organizations in Middle East and so forth, how India had interacted with the transnational bodies, multilateral financial institutions like, World Bank and IMF, all these things you study as a part of India's foreign affairs. Okay. You also study, of course, Indian polity, right? Apart from this, please also remember that as a part of political science, you also study Indian freedom struggle. There are specific topics in Indian polity which are related to Indian freedom struggle. For example, the perspectives on freedom movement. There are diverse perspectives on freedom movement. There is a Dalit perspective, there is a Marxist perspective, there is a liberal perspective. Okay. So different perspectives on freedom struggle in India. You also study about strategies from constitutionalism, mass movements, revolutionary terrorism, right? You study about the various trends and the various path-breaking events in Indian freedom struggle as a part of your political science. You study about the modern Indian political thought. You study about Ambedkar, Aurobindo, Gandhi, all these form a part and parcel of your political science. Therefore, political science has content which is very varied. And please trust me, everything that you study as a part of political science here is going to contribute to your general studies. Okay? That is one very significant aspect of political science, which has made political science a very attractive option for a good number of candidates aspiring for civil services. So, the second important quality of this option is its rich and varied content. Okay. Third, political science has a very close affinity with current affairs. Okay, political science has got a lot of affinity with current affairs. Primarily, you know that for any candidate preparing for civil services requires to be strong in current events. There is no other way. You require to be very strong in current events, isn't it? Civil service examination requires two important qualities from a student. The first quality is that the student should adopt an interdisciplinary approach. The approach of a candidate aspiring for civil services should be interdisciplinary. He cannot compartmentalize knowledge into various disciplines. He should learn to adopt an interdisciplinary approach. That's one requirement of any candidate aspiring for civil services. The second important quality is that the candidate should be contemporaneous. Okay, his approach should be current oriented. Civil services examination requires candidates to be requires candidates to be abreast with all the events that are happening, with all those socio-economic and political phenomena as they unfold. So candidates aspiring for civil services requires to be first interdisciplinary in approach. Okay, and secondly, they require also to be contemporaneous. Okay, they require to be contemporaneous. These are the two important qualities that every candidate preparing for civil services with political science requires to adopt. He requires to adopt an interdisciplinary approach. He requires to be contemporaneous as well. Okay, so political science is one optional which has got a very, very close affinity with the current events. Everything that you study as a part of your current events is going to help you in your preparation for PSIR. Okay, and everything that you study in PSIR in turn is also going to contribute to your understanding and clarity of current events. Both the political science and current events complement each other in a very, very strong way. Okay, probably there is no other option in entire civil services scheme which has got such a close relationship with the current events. Okay, the entire section B in paper 1, the entire section B in paper 2 has got very close relationship with current affairs. Not only that, your knowledge of current affairs can also be used to value add to your answers in section A paper 1 and section A paper 2 as well. For example, if you're writing about, let's say, national interest, if you're writing about the concept of national interest, which is a part of your syllabus in section A paper 2, you can include recent examples or examples which you come across as a part of your current affairs preparation to value add to this answer on national interest. Okay, so what is the purpose that Russia seeks to realize by invasion of Ukraine? What is the national interest? Okay, obviously you know that the eastward expansion of NATO had very strongly threatened Russia, right? This is not the phenomenon of today. Right from the time of the disintegration of Soviet Union, you know that continuously Russia was expressing concerns about eastward expansion of NATO. And with the integration of Ukraine into North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is probably the most powerful military alliance ever conceived in human history, Russia obviously is going to feel threatened. That sense of threat that Russia feels made Russia invade Ukraine. So there is a very strong element of national interest. So if you are writing about the concept of national interest, you can use your current events knowledge. And that's the reason why I said that everything that you learn as a part of political science is going to add to your clarity of current events, and everything that you learn as a part of current events is also going to help you in your political science. Okay, in section A paper 1, section B paper 1, in section A paper 2, in section B paper 2, in every segment of your syllabus you can use your current events knowledge. That's the reason why it's said often that political science and international relations shares a symbiotic relationship with current events, your preparation of current events. Everything that you study as a part of your current affairs can help you in your preparation for civil services. A recent technological breakthrough, okay, can help you enrich your answers on environment in international relations. Okay, so any energy, a recent energy technology breakthrough can also aid your understanding of political science, can help you value out your answers in political science. So political science is an optional in which there is a very close affinity between current events, and the optional. This you rarely find in other optionals, my dear friends. You find, you can use current events knowledge in other options as well. But the avenues for you to use current events is very vast. Okay, the leverage is very high as far as political science is concerned. And that's the reason why it is said that political science is the most relevant in the present scheme of examination. In the way the present scheme of civil service examination is designed, political science and international relations is the most relevant optional. Okay, it is interdisciplinary. Okay, political science requires a candidate to adopt an interdisciplinary approach, And secondly, I told you that political science also takes very, very significant amount of inputs from current affairs. Okay, and fourthly, that political science covers syllabus in almost all the papers of general studies. We'll look at this very soon. Okay, political science covers the syllabus in a good number of papers in general studies. Okay, and recent performance in the examination. That political science has been doing well in recent times. The success rate of political science is hovering between 8% to 9%, which is supposed to be good, keeping in view the volume of students who are taking the examination with political science. Okay, so political science is able to perform well, okay, in recent times. And of course, political science is a very much doable optional. Okay, it's not an option that cannot be managed. It's a very manageable and a very doable option. Okay, it is analytical. You require to have a little ability to analyze. It's logical. Okay, and the subject goes in a flow. Okay, you start with Western political thought, and then you slowly start looking at the concept of state. Okay, then you slowly look at the idea of sovereignty. Okay, for you to get a proper understanding, right? Then you look at ideologies, liberalism, Marxism, socialism, There is a proper sequence in the way you approach the subject, okay? So, it's not at random. You don't start with the first topic in your syllabus. You actually start with the very last topic in section A, paper 1, that is Western political thought, okay? You start with thinkers, you start with Plato, Aristotle, you start with Machiavelli, who is considered to be the first modern political thinker. Then you look at Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, who had given a basis for state, Then you look at Karl Marx, J.S. Mill, there's a way, okay? After you finish off with Western political thought, you now start looking at ideologies, okay? And then you look at the concept of state. And then you start looking at the theories of state, okay? So, political science, it goes in a flow, in a particular sequence, okay? And please remember that you'll come across, or you'll experience this in the class, that whatever that you study as a part of your political science, okay, will be actually building on what you learned earlier. Okay, for example, you learn about Thomas Hobbes and John Locke as a part of your preparation in Western political thinkers. And again, both these thinkers will appear in theories of state. Both these thinkers will again appear in this topic called theories of state. And both these thinkers will again appear in your understanding of the concept of sovereignty. Okay? And both these thinkers will again appear in ideologies, in liberalism, an ideology called liberalism. See, you study these two thinkers will figure in a good number of other topics in your syllabus. Okay, so what you'll be learning today, okay, you'll be building on that tomorrow, right? The subject goes in a flow, right? It's not like it's complete break from the past. It's not like that, okay? You first learn about the thinkers, and then you learn about ideologies, then you learn about the theories of state. One flows into another. Subject is always in a flow. You learn the subject in a flow, okay? It's not like static and disconnected topics. Topics are intertwined, interrelated to each other. That's how you approach political science. Okay. So, this very broadly is the nature of political science. Okay. So, whether political science suits your aptitude or not. Okay. Right. You keep these things in mind before you look at political science as an option. Okay. Understand that political science is background neutral. So, whatever is your background, what's your background, sir? Medical background. So, whatever is your background, you can still feel comfortable with political science because the concepts are very general and the subject is non-technical. Okay. So, we have terms which have a proper definition in political science. Okay, as I told you, there are no elaborate formulae. Okay, political science is very non-technical. So whatever is the background, candidates can still feel comfortable with political science. And that's the reason a good number of, I have known, I think, a doctor who had secured the first rank in civil service examination with political science as an optional. I think it was in 2004. She was a doctor by profession. Yeah, right. Yeah. And as I told you, the content of political science is very rich. It's got a very rich content, right? I told you, just looking at the Indian side, we study a little about Indian freedom struggle. We study a little about Indian economy. We study almost in entirety Indian polity. We study about Indian foreign affairs. So many areas are covered, and all these areas contribute to your understanding of general studies. Okay, so political science to na advantage ఏంటంటే ఈ syllabus లో ఉన్న significant amount of the syllabus contributes to your general studies, sir. Okay, it is not something which you are reading which is disconnected with the scheme of the examination, which got its relevance in some part of the examination or another. Okay, and thirdly, political science probably has got the greatest symbiotic relationship with current events compared to any other optional. Okay, so whatever you study, even the science and technology part of your current events preparation can help you in understanding or can help in contributing to political science. Okay, because in political science, you write about national power, you write about environment. Okay, you write about how energy requirements propel countries to explore alternatives. Okay, for example, the discovery of a new energy source at one particular point of at one particular part gives a lot of strategic importance to that part. Okay, right? Or a technological breakthrough related to energy can actually induce a new national power to a country. So in this way, whatever you study as a part of your current events in science and technology also can help you in political science. And that's the reason why it said, when I was a student, preparing for civil services just like you are, our sir used to tell me, whatever that you study as a part of your current affairs can have its application in one part of the syllabus or another, somewhere or another. You can find application of whatever you study in current events. Such is the kind of relationship that political science has with current events. Okay, and thirdly, it covers syllabus in almost all of you. Look at that very soon. Okay, what are the various GS papers in which there is a coincidence of syllabus with political science. Okay, and then recent performance, even that also we'll see what's the success rate and all that. Okay, and please remember that the option is very much doable. A lot of myths surround political science. A good number of students tend to feel apprehensive about what's called as political philosophy. We have political philosophy in section A, paper 1. It's actually political thought. Okay, a lot of students tend to feel apprehensive about this segment of the syllabus, but that's probably one of the easiest, provided you approach it in the right way. Okay, for example, as a part of political thought, you study about a very complicated political thinker like Plato. Okay, now what Plato is trying to tell is that democracy is a bad form of government. Why? Because it is not the most eligible or entitled who rules, rather one who is the most popular, isn't it? The one who is most popular gets most number of votes and he becomes eligible to rule. But is he really entitled to rule? Does he have that qualification to rule? What happens if there is a demagogue who can sway the emotions of people, capture their imagination, and thereby capture their votes and propel himself to power? He can misuse power, isn't it? So democracy is a bad form of government. If you can understand the context, if you can understand the motive behind his thought, if you can understand how he is logically building his argument, okay, you can understand the thinker very easily. Okay, now what do you think is the most important quality a person requires to rule? You tell me, sir. What do you think is the most important quality a person requires to have to rule a society? Any quality which you think that a person should have? Leadership quality. Okay. How do you judge whether that person has that leadership quality or not? What do you mean by leadership? Is it ability to take decisions? Or is it ability to lead? Or is it ability to respond to people's needs and deliver? Or is it the quality of a person to treat his people as his own children, solving problems. Okay. So what do you think a person requires to have to understand the problems and solve them? According to Plato, knowledge and wisdom should be the basis for a person's claim to political power. Anybody who claims political power should have this faculty of knowledge or reason. That he believes is the greatest entitlement that makes any person eligible to rule. Now, this is how he tries to build his argument. If you can understand the context, okay, the motive, the logic in which he builds his argument and his conclusions, you understand the thinker. There is a way to approach political thought. You approach it in the right way, it becomes the easiest part of the syllabus in political science. Okay, whether you are looking at Plato or Aristotle or Karl Marx or Machiavelli, right? It's a very easy part of the syllabus. The optional political science is a very doable optional primarily because there is nothing in the syllabus of political science which is unmanageable. Okay, every part of political science syllabus is within our reach. Okay, so that makes this option very attractive one. Okay, next we'll see how or what makes political science a manageable optional. Okay, what are we supposed to do, right? I told you, if you remember just a few minutes earlier, that this optional PSIR, okay, requires a candidate to have understanding. The subject is based on understanding. It is not a subject or an option which is based on memory. Okay, it's not like memorizing a few formulae, okay, applying those formulae and trying to arrive at solutions. It's not like that. Okay, it is not based on memory. It is based on understanding. Political science is always based on understanding. You are supposed to understand the concept. Okay, and once you understand it, it becomes very easy. And if you don't understand it, you'll be simply groping in the darkness. So why I say that proper guidance is important for political science is because it is a proper, it gives a candidate a proper understanding of the option. You must have heard this term democracy, isn't it? Can you tell me what do you mean by democracy, sir? Simply, your basic understanding of democracy. No, that's an observation made by Abraham Lincoln. And he himself said, okay, so elected representatives unte democracy aipotunda? Not necessarily. Okay, right? So having elected representatives or having free, fair and periodic elections is probably a condition for democracy. But having these by themselves does not make it a democracy. Democracy requires something else. Political rights, free, fair and periodic elections, free press, rule of law. All these are conditions for democracy. Conditions. Okay. But how do you differentiate democracy from its opposite form of government? What is the opposite of democracy? The opposite of democracy is dictatorship. How do you differentiate between democracy and dictatorship? How do they both differ from each other? That is the crux. That is how you should understand democracy. Can you try and make a distinction between democracy and dictatorship? Power to take decisions. Okay. Now, governments are classified into democracies and dictatorships based on people's participation in public decisions. Public కి సంబంధించిన నిర్ణయాలలో ప్రజల భాగస్వామ్యాన్ని ఆధారంగా చేసుకుని we divide governments into democracies and dictatorships. If majority people's opinion forms the basis for all public decisions, we call that as democracy. Majority people's opinion forms the basis for all public decisions. Okay? Majority people's opinion, it forms the basis for all public decisions. We call that as democracy. If a minority, on the other hand, if a minority takes public decisions, all public decisions, without any regard to the opinion of majority, we call that as dictatorship. It can be a single person minority. Okay? It is called as autocracy. A single person dictatorship is called as autocracy. It might be a minority social group, like an ethnic group or a caste group, which has captured political power and which is imposing its opinion on the majority. That is called as oligarchy. Okay? If the political power is captured by a military junta, and if it is imposing itself on the entire society and taking decisions, it's called as military dictatorship. If there is a political party which has captured political power, it has banned all the other political outfits and ideologies, it has imposed its own will on the entire society, we call that as party dictatorship. All these are dictatorships. And the common feature of all these dictatorships is that a minority takes public decisions. Once you understand this concept, it doesn't go from your mind. Till the time you understand this concept, okay, whenever you are asked a question on democracy, you're only going to beat around the bush, isn't it? A conceptual clarity okkasari ravalandi. Okkasari adi vachesindi anukondi, it becomes very easy. That is what is about subject based on understanding. Political science is based on understanding. You should understand the concept. When we speak about class consciousness of Karl Marx, or when we speak about ends justifying means of Machiavelli, or when we speak about state as the will of God, okay, all these are concepts. These are concepts which have been proposed by political thinkers at a particular point of time to uphold a particular point of view. Okay, it is these concepts that we are supposed to understand. Political science is based on understanding. A lot of people tend to miss this trick. Okay, there is nothing in political science that you memorize. Okay, once you understand these concepts, they'll remain with you. You'll never forget them also. Okay, Indian polity is not about articles, isn't it? Is Indian polity about articles? No. Is Indian economy about facts and figures? Is Indian history about dates and events? No. Political science also is not about these memorable, the things that you can memorize. Political science is about understanding only, always. Okay? And after understanding the subject, you're required to build on that. Okay? You're required to build on that. After getting a proper understanding, you're required to build on that. And then you're supposed to apply it. Okay? We'll see how we are supposed to do this as a part of our understanding of political science. The point is that civil services examination has a specific standard, right? We as students, you have your own standards. As faculties, we might have our own standards, right? We both should combine to try to reach up to the standards of UPSC. That's what you're supposed to do. In UPSC, the questions are so patterned that it tests your understanding, your clarity, and your ability to apply your understanding. Okay? Kabatti, these are the three things which become very important while studying political science. Okay? Next, political science also, it combines a good amount of static or conventional part of the syllabus with the dynamic part of the syllabus. Obviously, you know that paper 1 section A has a lot of static syllabus. Okay? And paper 1 section B, Indian polity, Indian government and politics, that has a lot of contemporary things, inputs that you require to give into your answers. Okay, so political science combines static as well as dynamic content. Okay, and I told you a few minutes earlier that candidate requires to adopt an interdisciplinary approach for political science, which is actually the requirement for any candidate preparing for civil services. If you are preparing seriously for civil services, you are supposed to adopt an interdisciplinary approach. I keep telling to the students always, paper 3 general studies combines what segments? Can you tell me? Paper 3 of GS mains, yeah. It combines Indian economy, science and technology, environment and ecology, and internal security. Okay, these are the 4 segments that we find in paper 3 of GS. I keep telling to my students, the imperatives of economic development, the compulsions of economic development requires deployment of science and technology. Isn't it? You require to deploy science and technology to achieve a greater amount of output, to realize optimum utilization of resources. You require to use proper technology, isn't it? Okay. So, the compulsions of economic development require deployment of technology, and deployment of technology probably can sometimes impact environment and ecology, isn't it? Too much of industrialization, too much of pollution, too much of stress on natural resources, they can adversely affect our ecosystem, ecology, isn't it? That can, of course, lead to natural disasters sometimes, okay? And natural disasters can, lead to collapse of administrative systems and threaten internal security. See, each segment of this paper has an interconnection with other segments, isn't it? Then you can compartmentalize, but if you can learn these segments in an interdisciplinary manner, that would be wonderful. This is the spirit of the civil services exam. Okay, you're required to adopt an interdisciplinary approach, and that's the requirement for political science as well. This is the very requirement of political science as well. Okay, that's the reason why in political science you have topics related to economy, topics related to polity, topics related to society. Okay, so many topics, so many segments are there as a part of your syllabus in political science. Okay, and fourthly, political science requires compulsorily conceptual clarity about the concepts. ఇందాక మనం చెప్పుకున్నాం డెమోక్రసీ గురించి. ఒక్కసారి ఆ కాన్సెప్చువల్ క్లారిటీ మనకు వచ్చేసింది అనుకోండి, ద సబ్జెక్ట్ బికమ్స్ వెరీ ఈజీ. ఓకే, రైట్, యూ హ్యావ్ రైట్స్, ఇజంట్ ఇట్? రైట్స్, యూ హ్యావ్ ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్స్ granted by the Indian Constitution. Can you tell me what's a right? A right is defined as a claim of an individual or group of individuals recognized by society and enforced by law. That's a right. Right is an individual or a group's claim recognized by society and enforceable by law. Okay, so a right has three dimensions. Even if either of one is missing, it ceases to be a right. ఈ మూడిట్లో ఏదైనా ఒకటి మిస్సింగ్ ఉందనుకోండి, ఇట్ విల్ నాట్ బీ ఎ రైట్ ఎనీమోర్. ఓకే, రైట్ అంటే దాన్ని నేను క్లెయిమ్ చేసుకోవాలి. అంటే ఎవరైనా నా హక్కుని ఉల్లంఘిస్తే ఐ షుడ్ బి రెడీ టు ప్రొటెక్ట్ మై రైట్, ఐ షుడ్ బి రెడీ టు రిటైన్ మై రైట్, ఐ షుడ్ బి రెడీ టు ఎన్ఫోర్స్ మై రైట్, ఐ షుడ్ క్లెయిమ్ ఇట్. ఓకే, ఒక ల్యాండ్ కొనుక్కున్నారండి, ఎవడో వచ్చి మీ ల్యాండ్ని ఆక్యుపై చేశాడు. ఓకే, మీరేం చేయాలి? యూ షుడ్ ప్రొటెక్ట్ యువర్ రైట్. As a part of protecting your right, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go to the court, isn't it? If you don't go to court for enforcement of your right, after 11 years of illegal occupation, he becomes the legal title holder of your land. It means you cease to have a right on that land anymore. So right should always be claimed. It should always be claimed. Okay, it should be recognized by society and enforced by law. So this is what's called as conceptual clarity. Once you have conceptual clarity of the various topics given, it becomes very easy. Political science becomes very easy. Okay, కొన్నిసార్లు ఏమవుతుందంటే students struggle with these concepts. Now this is where the role of a proper faculty becomes very important. Okay, somebody who is experienced, who knows the subject, as an aspirant, as a faculty who can understand the trials and tribulations of candidates preparing with this optional, that is where the whole the crux of political science lies. Okay, in giving you proper understanding of the concepts. Okay, and finally, for political science, my strong suggestion is that candidates should prepare their own personal notes. Okay, own personal notes becomes very important for political science. In the class, we'll be giving you exposure to a concept. We'll also be dictating notes to you. Okay, and then you'll also be given a book list. Okay, after whatever is taught to you in the class, okay, and whatever is dictated to you in the form of notes or whatever printout is given to you in the class, you're supposed to go back, look at a textbook and do a little more work on that to prepare your own notes. Okay, for the 120 days or so that we'll be here together as a part of our pursuit in trying to get to know political science, if you can do this on a daily basis and prepare your own notes, okay, you will be very, very strong in political science. Okay, So what I suggest to you is, after listening to the class, understanding the concept, and taking down dictated notes or collecting whatever the printed material that you are given in the class, okay, apart from that, okay, take a look at the textbook, prepare your own notes with your understanding, and whatever doubts that you have, ఏదైనా డౌట్స్ రావచ్చు కదా, in your trying to understand the textbook, some doubts might slowly creep into your mind, isn't it? Go back to the faculty next day, clear your doubts, okay, and finish off with the topic. Prepare your own notes, okay. Now I think that this is a very important thing. A good number of students tend to overlook this, but at least for the most important areas in political science, having your own notes becomes an added advantage. It helps you in your preparation, in the sense that it becomes very easy for you to revise. When you're revising, a concept will take not more than 5 minutes. If you have it in the form of your own notes, textbook చదివేసి మళ్ళీ అప్పుడు textbook కి వెళ్ళకుండా, you just consult your notes, okay. And after this notes is done and ready, okay, most important thing is stop exploring the topic again, okay. Now this is what is said by keep it simple. Don't try to explore too much, okay. Now this is a very, very important phrase as far as students of political science are concerned. You're supposed to keep it simple. Understand the concept, do a little work on that, prepare your own notes of 100 or 150 or 200 words, whatever is the scope of the topic, and then leave it there, okay. Now the point about political science is, when you look at the past question papers, you see that these concepts are asked in their direct form only most of the times, okay. So try to keep it simple, okay, and that would go a very long way in giving you a lot of marks in political science. The more and more you explore, okay, you tend to complicate the concept, okay. So keep it simple. Democracy అంటే ఏంటి, ఇందా నేను చెప్పాను చూసారు మీకు 4 వర్డ్స్, ఆ 4 వర్డ్స్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి చాలు, okay, right. తర్వాత డెలిబరేటివ్ డెమోక్రసీ, పార్టిసిపేటరీ డెమోక్రసీ, ఇవన్నీ తర్వాత వస్తాయి. ఆల్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ ఆర్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్, ఓకే. అసలు డెలిబరేటివ్ డెమోక్రసీ అంటే ఏంటి, పార్టిసిపేటరీ డెమోక్రసీ అంటే ఏంటి, రిప్రజెంటేటివ్ డెమోక్రసీ అంటే ఏంటి, హౌ డు దీస్ 3 types ఆఫ్ డెమోక్రసీస్ డిఫర్ ఫ్రమ్ ఈచ్ అదర్, ఒక ఫండమెంటల్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ పెట్టుకోవాలి. యూ లీవ్ ఇట్ దేర్. దట్స్ హౌ యూ అప్రోచ్ పొలిటికల్ సైన్స్. కీప్ ఇట్ సింపుల్, okay, right. And finally, political science also requires practicing answers. Now this is a very important element of the preparation for political science. It so happens that political science మనం కొన్ని స్క్రిప్ట్స్ రాయకపోతే స్టార్టింగ్ ప్రాబ్లం వస్తుంది స్టూడెంట్స్కి. దిస్ is what I had observed, after finishing a topic, okay. When I give a question to the student, sir నాకు ఇనిషియల్ ఐడియా రావట్లేదు, ఓకే, నాకు ఫ్లో రావట్లేదు, నాకు థాట్ ప్రాసెస్లో ఇంటరప్షన్స్ వస్తున్నాయి, I don't know how to start the answer. నాకు ఆన్సర్ ఉంది మైండ్లో, కానీ I don't know how to start the answer. There are some students who also have a problem in trying to structure their answer, giving the answer an organized form, okay. ఇవన్నీ కూడా, these are problems which students tend to face. కాబట్టి practicing writing answers is very important for political science, okay. And that's the reason why I keep urging the students, I keep giving questions in the class. Questions ఇస్తూ ఉంటానండి after almost every topic. There are some questions which I'll be giving the students as exercises, and I urge the students to write answers, okay, and get those answers evaluated. Manaki, actually, when I was preparing for civil services, just like you're all now doing, I always used to believe that, okay, I'll learn the subject and I'll go and write the answers in the examination. Actually, it took me 3 attempts to clear the mains examination, okay, 3 attempts. One friend of mine suggested, why don't you start practicing answer writing? This was about 15 years back, 20 years back, okay, when we did not have so much of mentorship and inta social media, inta mentorship, inta question answer evaluation, test series, ఇవన్నీ ఉండేవి కాదు, ఓకే. అదే ఉండేవి కాదు. కాబట్టి అప్పట్లో ఏంటంటే క్లాసెస్కి వెళ్ళేవాళ్ళం, క్లాసెస్లో చెప్పేవాళ్ళు, వెళ్ళిపోయేవాళ్ళం, చదువుకునేవాళ్ళం, అంతే. దట్ యూస్ టు బి అవర్ అప్రోచ్. టుడే వీ హ్యావ్ సో మెనీ సర్వీసెస్ బీయింగ్ ఆఫర్డ్ బై ద ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్స్. అట్లాంటి అన్ని సర్వీసెస్ ఉండేవి కాదు అప్పట్లో, ఓకే. సో వీ యూస్ టు స్టడీ అండ్ దెర్ వాజ్ నో కాన్సెప్ట్ ఆఫ్ ప్రాక్టీసింగ్ ఆన్సర్స్. One friend of mine suggested me to practice writing answers. Okay, he just said, write a script and just see. So I picked up a question from past question papers at random and I wrote an answer. 250 words answer. When I looked at my answer, I was myself shocked. Idi nenu rasina answer ana anpichinది. It was so complicated, it was so misdirected, there was no proper structure. నేను రాసిన ఆన్సరే నాకు నచ్చలేదు. Then I realized how important it was for every candidate to practice writing answers. After the 10th script, you will see so much of change in your answer, in the way you approach the question, you understand the drift of the question, you give a proper structure to your answer, you conclude properly. In every way, it is going to enrich your answer writing skills. Practicing scripts. Okay, political science and optional key becomes important. Each section ki ఒక 10-15 scripts practice చేస్తే చాలు. యాక్చువల్గా we have 4 sections కదా. For each section of political science, if you can practice around 12 to 15 scripts, enough. Okay, మనకే తెలిసిపోతుంది మన మిస్టేక్స్ ఏంటి, ఎట్లా మన మిస్టేక్స్ మనం ఓవర్కమ్ కావచ్చు అని. ఓకే, సో దిస్ ఈస్ how you can manage political science. Okay, first concentrate on getting the subject, getting to the know-how of the subject, understanding the subject, building on that understanding, and learning to apply that knowledge. Okay, right. And secondly, learn to combine static and dynamic content in the syllabus. Okay, learn to combine it. Suppose you are studying about Indian foreign policy. Okay, you understand the important principles of Indian foreign policy. Okay, and then you look at how in recent times Indian foreign policy is experiencing shifts. For example, 1992 we experienced a tectonic shift as far as Indian foreign policy is concerned. Okay, prior to 1992 our foreign policy was very much obsessed towards the West. Okay, it was after 1990s that we started to focus more on the opportunities and the need to leverage strategic advantages the east of the Indian subcontinent. Look East policy. Have you heard that? The Look East policy, right? So itlanti anamata. Okay, you should learn to combine the static and the dynamic content of the syllabus. Okay, so adopt an interdisciplinary approach. Okay, and concentrate on gaining conceptual clarity. What do you understand by, let's say, class consciousness? And ఒక టాపిక్ ఉంది, కార్ల్ మార్క్స్ ప్రపోజ్ చేసిన కాన్సెప్ట్. ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ని అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి కొంచెం టైం పడుతుంది, కానీ ఒక్కసారి అర్థమైంది అనుకోండి, ఇట్ విల్ బి దేర్ విత్ యూ త్రూ అవుట్. ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, we are very much enamored by patriotism, isn't it? Do you think it's important for everybody to be a patriot? Nationalism ఉంటే మంచిదేనంటారా? Do you think Gandhi was a patriot, a nationalist? Okay, Gandhi actually was an internationalist. Gandhi believes that the political boundaries that we have drawn separating people are only temporary barriers. Over a period of time, these would simply disappear and we'll realize the truth of one world family. That's what Gandhi had said. He was an internationalist, right? According to Karl Marx, these ideas that you have about your nation, about your region, the love that you have for your language, the love that you have for your caste, for your community, whatever, right? All these are part of false consciousness. These are ideas which are imposed on your mind. Okay, what is national flag? National flag is just a piece of colored cloth which is used as a symbol, okay, to express the identity of a nation and to bury the dead soldiers who offered their lives for the sake of the country. It is used as a cover, isn't it? This is what somebody had got to say about national flag. But national flag is held with so much of sacredness that you salute it and you offer it all your respect, you honor it, okay. Yeah, there is a code, flag code is there, right? So this is something which has been imposed on you. Okay, your commitment and your duty and the way you honor your national flag is an idea which is imposed on your mind. It's a part of false consciousness, according to Karl Marx, of course. So all these are concepts, and you understand these concepts once, they'll remain with you. Okay, this is what I told. Political science is about understanding. So once you understand the subject, it becomes very easy. Okay, you're a doctor, right? Yeah, so you know that there is so much to memorize in medicine, isn't it? Okay, there's so much. You understand process also, isn't it? As a part of your medical understanding, you know how the process takes place inside the body, isn't it? Okay, here in political science, most of the things are concepts. Okay, you understand the concept, it's there, it doesn't change. Okay, so focus of every candidate who is picking up political science as an option should be on gaining that conceptual clarity. This is where the faculty's role comes in. Okay, so this is where we can make you strong, right? And finally, as I told you, political science requires candidates to prepare their own personal notes and also practice writing answers. Okay, so this is about optional. Okay, I've spoken about the nature of political science. Okay, I've spoken about how to make political science a manageable optional. Okay, it's a manageable optional. There's no doubt about that. Okay, there is nothing that you cannot understand in political science. Let me be very straight, very clear, and that is, there is nothing in political science that you cannot understand. Okay, everything in political science can be understood without any doubt. Okay, అర్థం కానిదంటూ ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్లో ఏం లేదండి. ఓకే, సో డోంట్ బీ వరీడ్. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ పాపులారిటీ. I'm trying to get to know some facts about political science. Now you know that over a period of time, political science as an optional has been gaining more and more popularity. Okay, for example, in 2016, 1320 candidates have appeared with political science and international relations as an optional for their mains. Okay, in 2016, these many candidates have appeared with political science as their optional in the mains. Okay, and of this, 85 were selected. Okay, 85 were considered for selection. In 2017, 1246 candidates have appeared with political science and 117 were considered. In 2020, okay, 1863 candidates have appeared in civil services mains examination with political science as their optional. Okay, and please remember that in that year, the highest number of candidates who had taken their mains was with political science compared to other optionals. ఇప్పుడు ఎక్కువ మంది ఒక ఆప్షనల్ తీసుకోవచ్చేమో, ఓకే, వేరే వేరే ఆప్షనల్స్ ఎక్కువ మంది తీసుకోవచ్చేమో, కానీ మెయిన్స్ అపియరెన్స్ స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉన్నారు చూసారా, the maximum number of students who appeared mains examination was with political science. 1863 candidates have appeared mains examination with political science as their optional. Highest. This was the highest. And there was no other option which was anywhere close to political science in that year. Okay. The more encouraging thing about political science is that, you know, UPSC tends to show a pattern. Okay, which persists for a considerable period of time. Political science is consistently increasing in number of candidates taking political science in recent times. That shows that political science is emerging as the favorite option for students. But there must be a reason for this, isn't it? People are not foolish, isn't it? Okay, right. Now, why this popularity? Why this popularity among political science is, you know, I told you, political science shows a reasonably good success rate. Okay, and secondly, political science also has a diverse range of topics, and whatever that you study in political science is going to be helpful in some part or other of your general studies. Okay, and it helps students score very high marks in GS, general essay, as well as in ethics. You know, from 2015 onwards, you know that in general essays, there is at least one essay in the general essay paper which is directly from the syllabus of political science. You know, topics like reform of United Nations Organization, relevance of NAM, cooperative federation. Have you heard about cooperative federation? The concept of cooperative federation, which you must have come across as a part of your study of Indian polity. Have you taken coaching for GS, sir? No, not yet. Okay, okay. So in this way, political science helps in a good number of papers in your general studies, general essay, as well as in ethics. Okay, so this is why political science had emerged as a popular option in recent times. Okay, next, performance. If you try to understand the performance of political science, you know, see, in 2017 and 2018, political science is hovering around 10%. Okay, so out of 100 people who are taking political science, we are seeing a good number of people, getting selected with political science. Okay, so the success rate of political science is significantly high. Okay, and the more encouraging trend is, compared to 2015-16, the success rate in 2019-20 is very high. It means more and more number of students are clearing with political science, right? The success rate is more with political science in recent times compared to about 5-6 years back. Okay, and looking at the success rate, there are two important trends that we can identify. First is, from the earlier years, as I told you, success rate is significantly high compared to the earlier years. So compared to 2015-16, success rate in 2018-19-17 is higher. Okay, and secondly, we see that in the top 10 ranks in the civil services examination, there are consistently selections with political science as one of the optional. 2 or 3 in the top 10 ranks also account for students who have taken up political science as their optional. Okay, so this is how we can understand the performance of political science in the recent civil services examination. And even looking at this trend also, political science tends to be an attractive option for the students. Okay, now how or in what way does political science help in general studies? Okay, firstly, that probably there is no other option in the civil services examination, the civil services scheme of things, which has so much of coincidence with the syllabus in general studies. There is, as I told you, overlap of political science in almost every paper of general studies. In GS paper 1, 2, 3, even in ethics also, there is a coincidence of syllabus. For example, in general studies paper 1, okay, we have modern Indian history, that is freedom struggle, isn't it? And in political science also, you have freedom struggle. Okay, you have topics like perspectives of Indian national movement. Okay, perspectives of Indian national movement. Then you have strategies, movements. You study about the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, quit India movement. You study about constitutionalism as a strategy. Okay, you also study about revolutionary terrorism, the first phase, second phase. Okay, you study about the peasant movements, the tribal movements. Okay, all of them you study as a part of your political science syllabus. So political science considerably contributes to the syllabus of modern Indian history, which is in general studies paper 1. Okay, also there is another topic called world history. Okay, and a good number of topics in world history are also there in political science. Okay, and there is also another topic in GS paper 1, which is India after independence. Okay, even in this part of the syllabus also, there are topics which are there in political science syllabus. Okay, then you have in GS paper 1 social issues like caste, ethnicity, religion, regionalism, all of them are covered as a part of your syllabus in political science. Social movements, you have something like social movements, right? We have environmental movements, we have women's movements, okay? And we have trade union movements, the social movements, okay? They're also there as a part of your syllabus in GS paper 1, and they're also covered within the syllabus of political science, okay? So much of coincidence you have in GS paper 1. What about GS paper 2? You know that the entire GS paper 2, almost in its entirety, okay, is covered within the syllabus of political science. The entire Indian GS 2 comprises of Indian polity, Indian foreign affairs, and Indian diaspora. Okay, the entire syllabus of GS paper 2 is covered within political science entirely. Okay, right. Next, what about GS paper 3? I told you, if you remember, in political science you study about a lot of topics related to Indian economy. You study about the new economic policy, liberalization, privatization, you study about land reforms, you study about planning in India, okay? You study about development and administration in India. So many topics which are related to GS paper 3 are covered within political science. Also, in political science, you study about World Bank, you study about India's economic interaction with the rest of the world. Okay, here you study about exchange rate mechanisms and all that stuff as a part of your preparation in political science. You study a lot of area which is covered in paper 3 general studies. Okay, and ethics. Even in ethics also, there are a lot of areas which are covered in the syllabus of political science. For example, there are a lot of concepts that you study as a part of your ethics paper which are covered within political science. For example, the concept of utilitarianism. Okay, have you heard that? Whether something is ethical or not is based on its utility. Okay, if something is able to give you pleasure and help you avoid pain, it is ethical. Okay, so the test for ethical quality of a law is how much of utility it is able to promote. That is, how much of greatest good it is able to secure for greatest number of people. Okay, if there is any act or any action or any institution or any practice which is able to promote greatest good of greatest number, it is ethical. Ante. So ethical ante enta utility ni manaki andistundi anede test. Another utilitarian concept. Okay, so itlanti enno rakala concepts. The concept of ends justifying the means. Okay, ends justifying the means. If your end is noble, if the object or purpose which you seek to realize is good, whatever means that you adopt for realizing that is also good. Okay, మన ఆశయం మంచిదైతే ఆశయాన్ని సాధించడానికి ఎంచుకున్న మార్గం కూడా మంచిదే, అది ఎట్లాంటిదైనా కూడా. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ ద కాన్సెప్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎండ్స్ జస్టిఫై మీన్స్. ఇట్లా చాలా కాన్సెప్ట్స్ దట్ యూ స్టడీ as a part of your ethics are also covered within political science. Okay, and thinkers, right? For example, we have Kautilya, we have Machiavelli, we have Gandhi. A lot of thinkers that we study as a part of ethics are also covered as a part of your political science. Okay, you study about Kautilya, you study about Gandhi, you study about Machiavelli. All the three thinkers are covered in political science. You study about utilitarianism and Bentham as a part of your political science syllabus. So political science has got relevance even in ethics paper as well. Okay, so GS, okay, GS lo kani, general essay lo kani, okay, in all these segments you have topics related to political science syllabus. Okay, so political science helps in general essay, it helps in ethics, and of course, as I told you, political science has got a lot of current content. Okay, it complements as well as it is complemented by current affairs. Okay, so this is how political science is able to help you so much in your preparation. Okay, so political science therefore can be a good option, okay, to pick up for the civil service examination, right? So today I wanted to give an overall view of how political science is as an optional for civil services. Okay, what is the nature of its performance? Okay, and why political science had become so very popular. Today, as I told you, political science had emerged as the most popular optional, right? Looking at the number of candidates who are taking the mains examination with political science, I told you it's the highest number, right? And political science is able to show a very good success rate owing to the volume of students who are taking political science. Okay, and we also discussed very briefly about the nature of political science. Okay, what is its nature and how political science is approached, how it should be approached to make that option manageable for us. Okay, so these are a few things that I've discussed today, right? In the next workshop, we'll try to analyze the syllabus. Okay, the syllabus of political science. What exactly is the syllabus? And section A, section B, paper 1, section A, section B, paper 2. Okay, and what are the cautions that you should first keep in mind, before you select political science as your optional. Okay, whether political science is really manageable by you or not. Okay, whether you can take political science like this or not. What are the cautions that you should keep in mind before you pick up political science as your optional, right? We'll look at that in the next workshop. Okay, So today we tried to have an overview of political science. Okay,